This video is about how to find the pivotal players in a sequence in a weighted voting system. So let's get a definition first. A player P is pivotal if the coalition formed by the players in front of P is a losing coalition, but when P joins in, it becomes a winning coalition. This could be a little bit confusing because pivotal players apply to sequences, but in the definition I'm talking about coalitions, and that's not confusing at all. But hopefully, as I go through the examples, it will make it a little less confusing. There is one other important fact that I want to mention here, is that every sequence has exactly one pivotal player. So that means that you are guaranteed to have one and only one. So it's not like coalitions where sometimes they're critical and sometimes they're not. No, in this case, every sequence has exactly one pivotal player. This is easier to do with an example, so here we go. I have a pretty big example here, but don't stress about it too much. I have a 6-player system, and that's okay. The quota is 14, that's the important thing. And then I have the weights of all of the players. If you find it helpful, maybe you should label them player 1, player 2, player 3, etc. And then on the right here, I have my sequence. I can tell it's a sequence because it does have every single player, granted in a weird order, but still, all players 1 through 6 are present. And it's in parentheses, so I know that that's a sequence. So if I want to identify the pivotal player, I'm going to do this by making a chart. I have the coalition in one column and I have the weight in the other column. So if I look at my sequence, player 3 is the first person on the list. So I'm going to make the coalition formed by player 3. Player 3 has weight 4. 4 is not enough to win, which I didn't expect it to. And that's okay. For the one-player coalitions rarely win. So now, the next player in the list in the sequence is player 4. So I'm going to make the coalition formed by player 3 and player 4. So together, those guys have a total weight of 8, because 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 is less than 14. That's not enough to win, so I need to make the next coalition. The next player on my list is player 2. So I'm going to make a coalition formed by player 3, player 4, and player 2. Player 2 has weight 5. 8 plus 5 is 13, so that's the total weight of this coalition. If you notice, I am just adding everyone one at a time in the order specified by the sequence. Anyway, 13 is not enough to win, so I need to add the next player, which is player 2. So now I have the coalition formed by player 3, player 4, player 2, and player 1. If I add up all of their weights, that is 18. 18 is more than 14. So the addition of player 1 made us strong enough to win. So that means that player 1 is pivotal. So I hope this makes sense even if I've flubbed my narration a little bit. Let's do another example. I am going to use a slightly different strategy here. So here's my weighted voting system. And here is my sequence. It's a different order, but I kept the same weighted voting system. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently, a little bit faster, and a little bit more visual, I guess. So once again, I am going to be keeping track of the weight of each coalition as I go through and check them. I'm actually going to start by covering up everyone except for the first player, who happens to be player 5. Player 5 has weight 3. 3 is not enough to win. So what I'm going to do now is slide my rectangle over and include player 4. So I need to find the total weight of these two people. Player 5 had weight 3. Player 4 has weight 4, so 3 plus 4 is 7, so that's my total weight right there. 7 is less than 14, so this is not enough to win, so I need to keep going. I need to slide my rectangle over and include player 6. Player 6 has weight 2. So if I add all these up, I get a total of 9. 9 is less than 14, so we need to keep going. So I'll slide it over. Now I include player 1. Player 1 has weight 5. If I add up these total weights now, I get 14. And that ties the quota, so that's enough to win. So that means that player 1 is pivotal. Now, if I keep sliding the rectangle over, they're going to win from this point on. But player 1 is the first person that made them win. So hopefully you find this video helpful in making the pivotal player. We need the pivotal player for something else. So in my next video, there will be more examples of me finding the pivotal player, just perhaps a little bit faster.